I've been waiting all year to say this, but Joker Folie is my most anticipated movie of 2024, and I've said this for the past few years. The time has finally come. I have now seen this movie, and oh boy, we've got a lot to talk about. Hello everyone, welcome to the channel and thank you so much for taking your own time out to check out my review on Joker Folie. If you want to grab one of these sweet hoodies, click the link down below in the description box. But besides that, we're here to talk about Joker Folie, Joker Part 2, Joker 2, whatever you want to call this adaptation. Once again directed by Todd Phillips, starring Joaquin Phoenix, Lady Gaga, Gleeson, and many more. This now tells the story 2 years on from that original Joker movie, where Arthur Fleck is inside Arkham State Prison at this point, being incarcerated. But while he's there, he meets the love of his life. I saw this last night. I'm now recording this review the next day. And I want to kind of sit with my thoughts a little bit, because this is a one that's been getting trashed by a lot of people. It's a tale that hasn't been so well received, and especially when they first announced this as a musical, I know that probably turned a lot of people off. Now, for me personally, I love musicals, because as far as I'm aware, we've never really had a superhero movie based in a musical. I think there's elements in it in the Marvels or something like that, but I never saw that. I didn't really care to, being quite frank with you. So this out, and I mean, I'm going to talk some spoilers. So if you don't want to know that, maybe worth clicking away and come back once you've seen the movie. Okay, so positives I can say right at the bat is cinematography is beautiful, some set locations, some just on-set locations, some backdrops, some of the musical numbers, like the backdrops for them, stunning. The acting, Joaquin Phoenix, once again, as the Joker, Arthur Fleck, is great. He is really bearing his soul in this out, in particular in the courtroom scenes. I felt he was utterly fantastic and really riveting to watch. And I will say, I think one or two musical numbers do work. There is one in particular in a courtroom scene which I felt was really impactful, and for me that's why I really felt the movie was starting to put its foot onto the pedal and the car was revving at that point in time, and I loved it. Okay, this is where I'm going to go more into the negatives, but also more into my thoughts overall as a general consensus. Okay, so the musical aspect, which is going to be the biggest talking point of Joker Folie, doesn't work. Simply for a few reasons. Firstly, there's way too many songs. I think this has a total of 16 songs in total. It could have been trimmed down at least half of that, if not more. The musical numbers, when they do slot in, don't fit in here really whatsoever. Because you've probably seen the trailer, right, where Arthur Fleck is in the prison, and when he comes to this ward, this is where he first meets Harley Quinn, Lady Gaga, in this like singing course, singing therapy class, whatever it is. And it makes sense to have a musical number there, or one or two songs in there, because it's a musical class, right? So it makes complete sense to throw it in naturally. But there's certain scenes, for example, where Harley Quinn is waiting outside the court, you know, for Joker. She's outside having a cigarette before she enters in, and she bursts into a singing and just a random dance number in the middle of, like, just randomly outside. And I'm just thinking, well, who would do that? I know she's meant to be kind of crazy and that's her persona, but that didn't fit in. That's number one. We've got many more iterations throughout where these musical numbers are mainly played off to be, this is what the Joker's thoughts are in that present second. So if he's really happy and he feels like he's on top of the world, or if he feels like he's down in the dumps and he's been stabbed in the back, but they really don't fit as an analogy to how he's feeling in that present second, because those numbers are too long. They're not like quick, whippy and snappy, or they're tugging on the heartstrings in that moment where you're feeling really sorry for this character and you can feel the pain and anguish that they're suffering. You don't get those emotions. And this is where the movie for me faltered, because throughout it wants to push this musical agenda, throughout it wants to give us a lot of messaging about Arthur Fleck and the Joker and who he actually really is, and if the system has really failed him or if it hasn't. They do this in a really convoluted way, because the musical number that really worked for me, and I thought, wow, this hits home, this hit in the emotional beat at that point in time, is when Arthur Fleck is in the courtroom. As soon as they start bringing out about the past and when he was a young boy, it cuts to a musical number where we actually get some kind of Joker violence in that scene. And that moment for me, I was feeling kind of the goosebumps. I was like, yes, this is the Joker I want to see. This is him really, embracing who everyone thinks he actually is. I really enjoyed that from that moment on, except the musical number after that. But from that moment on, up until near the end, I really dug this movie. I really dug the opening because it was a really dark, gritty opening in terms of how we are made to feel how Arthur Fleck has been treated the past 2 years. As the courtroom drama element was superb. I felt for all the witnesses that took the stand. It was nice to see some familiar faces here. I also felt the pain that Arthur Fleck was going through of being recognised and really dealing with this dual identity, the Folie do meaning, that he's struggling with this Joker persona. And Arthur Fleck, if he's Arthur Fleck, no one wants to know him. If he's Joker, everyone wants to be his friend. Everyone wants to look up to him. Everyone wants to idolize the guy. But when you've got a lot of hit and miss elements and a lot of sloppiness in the musical numbers, which frankly don't work, it takes your emotional feeling that you should have in that moment way out of the picture. Now, the ending is also going to divide a lot of people. And I think you can look at this in 2 ways. The director himself, Todd Phillips, has come out and openly said that Arthur Fleck was never the Joker. He was just Joker. So the way that this movie ends could leave it to an interpretation where next time round, if they ever made another movie or someone else did, they could just intertwine this into being a real figure of the Joker who we should know. For example, like a Heath Ledger version as such. That for me was like the Joker of the recent Batman movies. So you could really play it out in that aspect, but you're like, okay, so I understand now the meaning, and I now understand the way that the Joker persona is built on how he was inspired by these events that happened, because this was set as the first televised event. So this is kind of set around the 70s, 80s period, something around that era. So in that aspect, the ending can work depending on if they wanted to function that in to any future projects with how that last scene plays out. Something happens in the background where it is blurred out, but you can tell exactly what is happening. But then on the flip side, the way that this doesn't work is if you're going into this movie expecting Joker action, expecting him to be chaotic like he was at the end of the first movie, and how things were going ablaze and how Gotham was going to change forever, you are not going to get that in this installment. This is also a tale that is an Arthur Fleck story. It goes to show that no one in the world cared about him, but they only ever cared about Joker. In terms of me and where I stand, I'm very mixed. In time, do I think that this might be better perceived? Maybe. But right now, I feel like it's going to get a lot of hate because of people who don't like musicals, or the fact of how people who like musicals like me, it doesn't play out as a great musical, which ultimately ruins the whole aesthetic that the sequel is going for. And I'm really curious as to what you guys think on this, because I'm split down the middle. Probably a 2.5 out of 5 for me personally, but I want to hear from you guys. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Now, if you've enjoyed this review, and if you want to see more content you won't see here on YouTube, well, hey, check out my Patreon. Links down below in the description box from only £2 per month. Big thanks to all these awesome legends who are subscribed to Patreon. In the meantime, if you haven't seen these reviews of mine, click over here, have a little bit of a deep dive. Till next time, I'll see you guys. I'll be seeing you later.